approval.
Spark grant, okay, we will put that under items for consideration. Item number F. Okay. Any other request? Hearing no such request, any commissioner wish to change the agenda additionally? Hearing no such request, the agenda is approved as amended. Reports from state and county officers. Do we have any state and county officers present who wish to deliver an update or report to the board?
Test.
Did you get one?
Why don't we have him sit at John Smoker's spot?
Is that?
The wireless mic, we can try that, but that was getting feedback unfortunately. Press the mute button.
Test. Ooh. Sounds awful loud.
Testing 1, 2. This one works. Question is, when we get it over near that other one, do we get feedback?
Can we unplug that one?
Let's see if I can.
I turned it off.
It's the badge, yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning.
The stats we have for May of 2023, corrections stats have booked, the staff have booked to process 115 persons in the jail for the month of May. Additionally, released 105 persons back into the community. The daily average inmate population was 50 people, or 50 persons. Staff has transported 42 inmates to and from various locations to include court, medical facilities, and other counties. In addition, we have fingerprinted 112 persons in the front counter. Kitchen staff has prepared and served 4,559 meals for our inmate population at the cost of $2.66 per meal. The booking average from 2023 to 2018 was 115 to 319, releases 105 to 243. That DAP was 50 to 99, transports 42 to 48, public prints 112 to 88, and we have that. Plumbing repairs, we spent $1,553.67, and security repairs $8,740 for the intercom and the new door lock for this front door system. For the stats on the Berry County Law Enforcement, they logged 832 complaints handled in the month of May. 20 individuals were arrested. There were 58 accidents handled. 31 involved deer. Involved alcohol and drug related was 1. 372 criminal histories were run for the warrant entry and or warrant request. 85 sex offenders were processed, and 318 pistol licenses were processed at the time. 2023, we had 832 versus 867. Accidents handled 58 versus 55. Car versus deer 31 versus 23. Arrest 21 versus 67. And alcohol drug related 4 versus 9.
Awesome. Questions for Under Sheriff Sixberry? Thank you. Limited public comment. At this time, any member of the public wishing to address the board may do so for up to 3 minutes.
Good morning. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. I wish to remind everybody, the usual thing that I wish to remind everybody of, please speak into the microphone or use your outdoor voice. We're all intelligent people here. We need to learn from each of us, because I haven't met a person yet that I couldn't learn something from. So please speak up so I can hear what you're saying. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rick.
Good morning. Cindy Twitchell, Prairieville Township. I don't know about all of you, but as for me, I feel like I live in a dream that I can't wake up from, and now it's become a nightmare. I was raised and raised my children to always treat others with kindness and respect. No one should ever be mistreated because of the color of their skin, the color of their hair, the size of their body, their intelligence or lack of, their religious beliefs, or who they have sex with. Also, no one should ever be given special treatment because of the color of their skin, the color of their hair, the size of their body, their intelligence of, or lack of, their religious beliefs, or who they have sex with. Our country that I was once proud to live in is a country now that I weep over. But it isn't the country that has lost its mind. It's those who govern and are governed in the country. Because the country and the Constitution still exist, they have not changed. Those within the country have changed. Over this past year, I have been mistreated and honestly do not feel safe because of what I believe. I don't believe that abortion is okay. I don't believe that a man should be having sex with a man or a woman with a woman. I don't believe that we get to choose our gender. I do believe that God made man and woman two genders, and that God designed sex to be between a man and a woman. These are my beliefs. In this past year, certain special interest groups have taken over. The general welfare of the men, women, and children of this country as a whole is no longer a concern. We are being told that if we do not accept and condone the agendas of these special interest groups, we are hateful, homophobic, transphobic, horrible people that are causing division instead of inclusion. Our forefathers, through the divine involvement of God, set up our country to be a strong, thriving country. On the subject of God, Thomas Jefferson said, God who gave us liberty, can the liberties of a nation be thought secure when we have removed their only firm basis and a conviction in the minds of the people that these liberties are a gift of God? Patrick Henry said, it is when a people forget God that tyrants forge their chains. George Washington stated, it is impossible to rightly govern a nation without God and the Bible. I could go on, but why would I? Today, those in government have made it clear that God has no longer a part in government. Jerry Nadler, who is a representative from New York on the floor of Congress, actually said, what any religious tradition describes as God's will is no longer a concern of this Congress. Those who continually state that there must be a separation of church and state, am I to call them Christphobic or Godphobic? This past weekend, there was a family-friendly event in Middleville that displayed a sign of their sponsors that included the Berry County Mental Health. Oh, by the way, it also included drag queens. So, it must be okay for me to assume that if a faith-based family-friendly event was put on in Middleville that included Bible reading and preaching, that their sign of sponsors will also include the Berry County Mental Health. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Additional public comment?
Good morning. Shelley Lake Irving. And I just wanted to bring to your attention something regarding elections, of course. On May 20th, I sent out Freedom of Information Acts to all of our local clerks for what they call EPB data, the electronic poll book. When you go to vote, it's the laptop there. It's just a record of it's the electronic poll book versus the paper they used to have and that the county keeps. Anyway, those clerks who have responded, of course some haven't, two lawfully fulfilled my FOIA. Sharon Olsett in Irving and Anita Manel in Hastings Charter. This FOIA asked for nothing private, secure. The 6 or 7 items that I expect to be redacted, social security number, driver's license, date and month of birth. I don't want any of that. I just want to know who was there to vote. Though the rest of them denied me based on what the Bureau of Elections has sent them, and I have copies. There are letters, memos to our clerks, to our county clerk, saying after 7 days after election, you must delete this EPB data. Why the clerks are following their directives instead of the law is beyond me. I provided them all with the pages of how to retrieve this data before the new software is uploaded. I don't think any of them use this, but I also have copies of all the laws of why this must be retained in Michigan for 24 months. I would like to just, I know that your wife is a clerk, I would just like to give you a copy and read over it. We didn't have enough ink to make for everyone, but
Thank you.
you're welcome. The law is to retain it. The Bureau of Elections directives to delete it, that is not the law. So one of the laws in there is about intimidation, and I believe that's what the Bureau of Elections is doing to our clerks, saying if you don't delete this, so they're following these directives, these memos from Lori Boubinet and Brader, who's now the head of ERIC. Please, if you have any in with the clerks, I will be filing appeals, and I will be, there will be, I don't know if it's gonna be a lawsuit or a complaint to those who aren't following the law, and especially to those who are ignoring the FOIAs. You can't do that. Thank you.
Thanks, Shelley. Additional public comment?
Pat Jameson, South Bowens Mills. I'm not here to ask you to deactivate Berry County. I'm here to ask you to get blue zones out of the 2040 master plan. It starts on page 195 and it's on the action plan. So that action plan to me means things you plan on doing. Out of the 44 items on there, 9 of them involved blue zones. That's 20%. How does that get in there if it's an outside company supplying all the money? And then I was at Thornapple Township last night talking to them about it, and the weirdest thing happened. Someone abstained from a vote because they had a conflict of interest. I believe the two of you should have done that with blue zones since you were on steering committees. I said, I find that a highly conflict of interest that you were involved with blue zones and then voted to give blue zones money. I said, I take that very seriously. And don't know where I'm gonna go from here, but I'm gonna hit the rest of the townships. Hit 3 of them already. And so hopefully you guys will start seeing some correspondence about what they think. Because up here, nothing's getting done. You're just pushing blue zones. You're gonna up until 2040. So that's what I'm doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Additional public comment?
Morning, Joel Ibbotson, Rutland Township. I also would like to see blue zones removed from the master plan. I think there's plenty of other programs that we could participate in that would be much more beneficial to the community than blue zones. One of the things that they've been pushing for is complete streets, and I can tell you as a truck driver, they have made some of the streets in the state from this program so unfriendly to drivers. I can give you one example here in town when they turned Broadway headed north out of town, M43 there into a complete street. Now you have trucks starting from a stoplight at the bottom of a hill, and when we weigh 80,000 pounds, we don't accelerate very quickly. And there's cars that pass me in suicide lane to get around. There is nothing safe about that. And then by the time you get to the top of the hill, it's a race to see who can pass who first. We've had accidents, including a fatal one that comes to my mind just past that intersection there, and I believe a lot of it stems from road rage. Through that, there's a lot of other things. If you actually go through and read the nuts and bolts of what these people advocate, it is absolutely nuts that our county would support this, especially with as much livestock as what supports our community here. I have a friend of mine who has 6,000 hogs. I have another friend who has 200 head of cattle, and here we are trying to advocate against this. You know, one of the things that I thought that was kind of comical as I was reading this is there was a study that within 10 months, they had increased the life expectancy of people in 10 years. And you know, I don't get how being 10 months of being a blue zone community, how you're already increasing the life of people, or people are living 10 years longer within that 10 months. That doesn't make any sense. What needs to happen is kids need to get off their phones. We need to go back to being active, and unless we can get past that hurdle, no matter what we do with blue zones or, you know, Seventh-day Adventists, even dairy-free diets and so forth, it's not going to accomplish anything. Read the actual plan, what Blue Zone plans to implement here, and check into that. Also, last thing, something that we could do, maybe we could send a resolution to the city to allow for more than 4 signs to be placed in the courthouse lawn for the farmer's market that meets there every week. It'd be kind of nice to see, you know, used to be you could have all kinds of signs, cucumbers, sweet corn, honey, and so forth. And with the sign ordinance, you can only have 4, and you see them trying to put them on the other corners now, and it's confusing. Let's do something to help our local farmers market, which, by the way, Blue Zones wants to move that off of Mill Street, a low-traffic area where the Royal Coach building used to set, and that gets it off of the main highway. I'd like to do something a lot better than what these guys are pushing. Thanks.
Thanks, Joel. Additional public comment?
Good morning. Rich Temke, Director of Berry County Community Mental Health. So just a point of clarification, the event that my staff participated in Saturday in Middleville, Berry County Community Mental Health was not a sponsor of that event. Berry County Community Mental Health was there simply to provide information if individuals needed help with behavioral health, mental health, substance abuse. We were simply there to provide that information to those individuals like we would any other citizens of Berry County. Thank you.
Thanks, Rich. Additional public comment?
Morning. Gary White, Castleton Township, Nashville. Last meeting, you sold the building to a nonprofit. A couple years ago, you turned over the ARPA fund program to nonprofits. Nonprofits don't generate taxpayer dollars. It's the people of Berry County that do the, you know, that gets charged for all these things. If you're supposed to be representing the people of Berry County, but you listen to the nonprofits, you, I don't know, listen to your economic development alliances that the taxpayers fund, and then you say, well, we're here to do the best for what we think the county needs. Mike Calton talked about this at the township meetings. Quite a few things happened at the township meetings, Castleton and Maple Grove, that I'll be talking about later. But I don't see the child care happening in Nashville all the way out here on Iroquois Trail, if they ever do. It's amazing what has popped up since. I'm just wondering who you folks really represent. Is it the taxpayers? Is it the people? Is it the nonprofits that you seem to listen to and turn over funds? As I said, $6 million. Have we had any reports on where the $6 million, all these programs or these funding projects are at? Is there a sheet where we can go and take a look? Have we heard anything? Seems like it's being asked, but it's not being done. The $100,000 to Blue Zones, was that spent appropriately? It was supposed to be for some type of survey or something, or it's a lot of money being spent on Blue Zones, it seems like. That now if it's in the master plan, it's supposed to be separate, isn't it? So how do we, and the Blue Zone continually goes to governing bodies month after month, week after week, and is doing presentations on Blue Zones. They're going to school boards and wanting things done. What about, I don't know, the South Beach diet? Why is that in the master plan? What about everything else that is healthy in the master plan? Why is the blue zones going in the master plan? I haven't read this yet. I can't wait to open it up one of these nights and just say, wow, we've been misled by the county commissioners because they're telling us that it's not government, nothing to do with the government. But is it being presented in the master plan? Do you folks agree with that? Do you not agree with that? I don't know. There's a lot of things that don't seem to be happening or that you're not aware of. It's your responsibility to become aware of what's going on. Thank you.
Additional public comment?
Under Sheriff Jason Sixbury, I just wanted to give this information out for anybody that likes to drive a vehicle. There is the Public Act from 41 of 2023, effective date June 30th, 2023. There'll be amended reference MCL 257.602B in the Motor Vehicle Code, reference mobile electronic devices. So basically it means you're not going to be able to any longer hold physically support anything with your hands, your arms, or shoulders and I know this is out there, but I just want to make sure people understand you're not going to be able to use that mobile device any longer, unlike at the time. So the amended operate means drive or assume physical control of motor vehicle or public highway, street, road, or highway, including operation while in temporary stationary because of traffic, road conditions, or a traffic light or stop sign. So if you stop at the stoplight and you start looking down and you start working on your phone, texting, or social media is a big one now also, that's a no-no. You can't do that any longer effective June 30th, which is use of mobile electronic devices means use of mobile electronic device to do any task, including but not limited to any of the following: send or receive a telephone call, send, receive, or read a text message, view, record, or transmit a video, access, or read or post a social media networking site, individual operator, motor vehicle code. That's including, there's some exceptions, emergency exceptions and everything, but everybody can take a look at it again, which is the amended MCL 257.602B.
Takes effect when?
June 30th of this year.
Thank you. Additional public comment?
Hello, Adam Heikkila, local business owner. Long time no see. Been busy. Hopefully you all have read the book that I gave you. I don't know, maybe a few of you. I believe probably a few of you have. I didn't even know this discussion was going to be happening here, so it was kind of interesting. But it kind of goes along with everything I've said, everything I've been here relaying to you all as far as my knowledge and understanding of what I've been through and what I've learned on the ways that some outside forces, right, do things in control within our local communities. If these blue zones, everything that's going on with them, we don't see that as, the example, being a nonprofit group, being able to come in, influence, and have votes made by boards like yourselves to approve things for them to be successful and have access in our communities. I don't know what it is. When we see the projects going on in Marshall, Michigan, and other places, the way that they've pulled the wool over all of the residents' eyes through the local Marshall Area Economic Development Agency there that that is tied to the Michigan Economic Development Agency, which is tied to all the other central planning groups and agencies that are going on, doing all of these changes across the nation and the world right now. This is serious stuff. You all have an opportunity to fight against it firsthand. And if you don't, you're going to be removed from your positions. People are waking up, here in this county especially. These are people here that want to just live free and want you to stay the heck out of their lives. You guys are approving things and putting things in your plan for the long term. things that absolutely drastically change people's lives, people's life heritages with their families going back many generations, you all are going to force to change with the actions that you're doing. That book that I gave you tells you that you're not supposed to make decisions from outside forces, right? Those higher up forces that try to tell you to make a change. If it's not right, you're definitely not supposed to make it, especially now when you have people that are in your community that you are to be a representative of, a part of, making decisions for. You got to understand what you're making and doing the right decision. So, man, the Lord works in mysterious ways and brings people at different times. Man, crazy. Hopefully you all will make the right decision here, and maybe make some changes and some other discussions on what all you guys are doing with that, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Additional public comment? Hearing none, we will move ahead with our agenda. Various correspondence. Does any commissioner have correspondence they'd like to share with the board? Hearing none, consent agenda. Commissioner Tunison.
Mr. Chair, approval of May 23, 2023 Board of Commissioner meeting minutes.
Is there support?
Support.
Motion by Tunison, support by Hatfield for approval of the May 2023 Board of Commissioner meeting minutes. Items listed on the consent agenda. Discussion is not allowed. A roll call vote is required. All those in favor vote aye. Opposed vote nay. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Colton.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Doster.
Aye.
Getty.
Aye.
Hatfield.
Aye.
Smelker absent. Tunison.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye. The consent agenda is approved. Presentations. We have County Clerk Pam Palmer.
Thank you. I finally get my big chance to speak and I get a tickle in my throat, so pardon me in advance if I stumble. I want to talk to you about the changes in our election process that's coming up in 2024 due to the passage of Proposal 2 from last November. See if I can work this thing. Leslie, it's not working. So some of the changes that are taking place, and I'm going to preface right now that not all of these implications have been resolved as far as how they're going to be implemented. I've been to 3 trainings so far. I have another one coming up. There's still work to be done to get this all worked out to be a smooth process. But part of Prop 2 brings changes in early in-person voting, so they will have 9 days prior to the election to vote. There will be a permanent absent voter mail ballot list. So it changes some of the forms that you'll be filling out. If you want an AV ballot, there's a place on the ballot or on the application that you can check, and you will be involved making up a new form. And there's a place that you can check that you want to be on this permanent mail ballot, so you won't have to be filling out applications every year for an AV ballot for the remainder of that year. You will be on a permanent list. Prepaid return postage for absent voter applications and ballots. So the state is busy setting up permits for each jurisdiction, so that when the clerk mails out an application or their AV ballot, it will go through a permit box that's been set up and assigned to that jurisdiction.
postage will be paid, and then it will be paid when it comes back. They don't have this all completely set up yet, so in the alternative or in the interim, we will be able to bill the state, but the state will be responsible for that postage. There's about 15,000 BMP, business reply mail permits that are being set up. Also, will be a absent voter ballot drop boxes installed at every jurisdiction. I believe Berry County has that, but some of my clerks have told me that their ballot boxes are leaking. They haven't been of good quality, so I've encouraged them to apply for a new ballot drop box to replace the one the state is paying for those. Next slide, Leslie. So, permanent absent voter mail ballot. Like I said, if you check this box on your application, you will be on that permanent list. The qualified voter file will be utilized to maintain a list, automatically update moves, track ballots sent and received by the clerk, voter history for update of status. The QVF does a portion of this already, but they are needing to upgrade their programming so that they can keep track of these permanent AV voters. It also has a place on this application that if you're a snowbird and you are going to be out of state for a period of time, our mail service will not automatically forward your mail. Even if you've signed up to have your mail forwarded, they will not forward ballots. So the clerk will have in this program where to send that ballot to you when you're out of state or at a different location. There's going to be an increase in ballot costs. I don't know that my vendor will be actually increasing their costs. We pay 39 cents per ballot at this point. We give a best estimate of how many ballots we will need based on registered voters. However, if you're sent an AV ballot, you look it over and you decided that you would want to vote that ballot in person and see it go through the tabulator, you will bring that ballot back to your clerk. She will have to spoil that ballot and issue you a new ballot so that it can actually go through the tabulator during this 9 days. So therefore, we're going to need to increase our ballot orders by probably, instead of ordering 100% or 110%, we're probably going to be ordering about 150% of our registered voters. So that's where the increase will come in. There's also going to be anticipated increase in hours for clerks, election assistants, and workers to manage this program for 9 days. I did a little math. So for the city of Hastings, for example, they have 4 wards. And my immediate worry was, where are they going to hold this 9 days of voting? I now have the answer to that, which I'll tell you in a second. But so they're going to have 4 wards. They're going to need a minimum of 3 workers per ward, which is 12 workers times 8 hours per day is 96 hours per day, times 9 days is 864 hours, and I know that the city pays their workers $15 an hour, which comes to $12,960 just to pay for this 9 days of early voting. Since then, I've checked with the City of Hastings clerk, and they are going to be holding their, I was worried because they do it at the church, the Baptist church, and which would include 2 Sundays. I'm pretty sure the Baptist church isn't going to close down for 9 days of early voting to accommodate this. But she has made arrangements to hold this 9 days of early voting in their township hall. I think there's a room or a place upstairs where they can actually make this work. Also, I'm probably jumping ahead of my notes, but there's ways to consolidate. So instead of her having 12 workers, she could consolidate and have 3 workers holding all 4 wards. They would just need to be on their toes and know which ballot to give out to which voter, which is going to mean that the QVF, where when you check in to vote and they check to see which ballot you are entitled to or required to receive, they will need to check and make sure that they give the correct ballot to the correct voter, which is, they're used to doing that. But that would be one way of cutting down on some of these expenses. So the programming for the QVF is going to need to be updated as well, and they're working on that. They also need to have programming, which the county pays for all townships and jurisdictions to include that 9 days of voting. So they will know if this person voted during the 9 days of early voting or if they voted on election day. By the way, those costs that I just gave you did not include election day, which is usually always more than 8 hours per day. Next slide, Leslie. So all voters will have the right to 9 days of early in-person voting, the Saturday before the election through the Sunday before the election. So there's a week span in there. They're only required to hold this 9-day of early elections for state and federal elections. So this won't go into place until next year during the presidential year. Early in-person voting is polling place style voting, so voters actually see their ballots go through the tabulator. It is not an in-person absentee voting. So if, like I said, if you're sent that absentee ballot and you decide you want to see it go through the tabulator rather than mailing it back, they'll have to spoil that ballot and give you a new ballot. Ballots are tabulated, but not tabulator reports are run every night. So they're in the process of figuring out how to secure these ballots that have been put through the tabulator during that 9 days. And the most recent training that I took is they are thinking of having the clerks take the ballots out each night and secure them in a proven ballot bag, and have it sealed like they would on election night. And so they'll have 9 bags of ballots. But the tabulator will not do a printout with results until election night. So this creates a new dilemma for the canvassers in that they will be reading a tape from the 9-day early voting, they'll be reading a tape from election day, and they'll be reading a tape from any jurisdiction that has an AV counting board. So they'll have 3 tapes to read and compare and add together. Creates a little bit more work for them. And like I said, municipalities within a county may share early voting sites hosted by the municipality or the county. So the county could do all of the 9-day voting, and we'd have to set up a place where tabulators could be set up, and these people would all come to the county and cast their early 9-day vote. Or municipalities can consolidate and help cut down on some of the costs by consolidating. So far, the feel from most of my clerks that I meet with on a monthly basis is that they would right now rather try to keep all of their numbers. They don't want to give up their voters. They want to keep track of their numbers and their voters. And so I've suggested that they try this, probably during the presidential primary and see how it goes. We don't know if it's going to be a high voter turnout or if it's going to be kind of hit and miss, a slow work day for these workers. That would give them a feel for it. So next slide. So the clerks will need to update all absent voter ballot applications to allow the option to join the permanent list. So right now, they're in the process of sending out these applications who are on their permanent list and that giving them the choice to mark this box that they can be on the permanent mail list, which means that they'll just automatically be getting an AV ballot every election from now until they decide not to vote ever again or move out of state. The qualified voter file to collect and track permanent status needs to be updated. I talked to you about the multiple mailing lists of addresses that will be on file for the clerks to keep track of. And they will need to distinguish from pre-existing permanent absent voter ballot lists from the automatic list. Eventually, this will catch up with themselves so that there won't be two lists for them to track. There's going to need to be additional clerk training and voter education. All voters have the right to complete a single application, be mailed an absent voter ballot for all future elections, which we've already discussed. The permanent absent voter mail ballot status moves with the voter when the voter updates their registration address within the state, including across jurisdictions. So that's going to be part of the program that they're putting into QVF, is to be able to keep track of where you're at and where to send your ballot. Voters will be taken off the list upon their request, cancellation of registration, reliable information that the voter has moved from registration address or not voted for 6 years. This is required for all jurisdictions in all elections. It's going to require programming of voting equipment. Like I stated, there'll need to be special programming for the 9 days of early voting in addition to the programming for Election Day. Programming right now costs $525 per split. So in other words, in let's say Rutland Township, Rutland has Rutland 1 and Rutland 2. Rutland 1, I believe, is all Hastings voters, so that's $525 for that program, for that tabulator. In Rutland 2, they have a split between Hastings voters and Thornapple Kellogg voters. So that's that's a split. So that would be 2 charges of $525. Little Carlton Township has 7 splits. Little Maple Grove has, I believe, 4 splits. And it's due to Carlton Township has 3 commissioners.
Two.
I'm sorry, two commissioners, 3 school districts that they're in, Hastings, Lakewood, and Thornapple Kellogg. They have the village of Freeport. So, anyway, they have the most splits in our entire county. I've already talked to you about prepaid postage and ballot tracking. The state will be paying for the postage rather than people having to put stamps on the postage or dropping it off to their clerk, which will be a big expense. And ultimately, we're paying for that. It's the taxpayers that'll be paying for that. Each municipality must have at least 1 drop box for every 15,000 registered voters. That doesn't come into play in Berry County unless I were to consolidate. And the most I can consolidate would be 6 jurisdictions. I still don't think we would reach that 15,000. Might come close, but we're not quite there yet. So probably 1 drop box per jurisdiction. Drop boxes must accept absent voter applications as well as ballots and be available 24/7. There was also a requirement initially that cameras be installed over these drop boxes, and now the most recent training that I took, or it was, actually I was watching the legislative hearing last week that was held for House bills that are going to be implementing some of this, are indicating that they're pulling back from requiring cameras to be installed. I don't understand that because this is supposed to add more security to our voting system, but they're pulling back the cameras, so I don't know how to explain that. Like I said, the state legislature will be beginning working with the clerks and to sustain and efficiently fund these elections. Clerks should be involved in determining specific cost breakdowns, which will vary by jurisdiction. Like I said, if they don't have their mail permit set up yet, we can submit a reimbursement form to the state and be reimbursed for any postage that has been spent. There's going to be additional staffing required. So staffing for this 9 days, I would be surprised if you could find one person that wants to work 9 days in a row. So these trainings that I do every even year of election inspectors, I train between 250 and 300 workers, and yet, to no discredit to my clerks, they most often go with their most tried and true people, especially during big presidential elections. This will probably force them to use some of those people that have taken the training but never had the opportunity to work an election. Or they also can go out of county and work elections, but they may not have worked in Berry County. This is going to probably, it's going to require more people to implement this, and probably more people, give more people the opportunity to work these elections. And I would encourage them to use these people that aren't tried and true to work these 9 days. I think that it's gonna be slow. I could be wrong, but I think it's going to be a slower process and give them an opportunity to learn how each and every step needs to be done. Legislation is trying to figure out how voters will be checked in on the electronic poll book for early voting, which may require each jurisdiction to purchase another e-poll book for tracking those 9 days. It's also going to require them to purchase another tabulator and the ballot drop box. The tabulators are $4,950, and the ballot boxes that catch these ballots are $1,000. We're not talking chunk change here. And then an e-poll book runs about $800, and also they're going to be required to purchase a new printer, which will have the ability to print a 22-inch ballot, which is probably the size of the ballot that you'll see next year. One of the features that we just went through last week and did an upgrade on our existing equipment, and one of the features that they put in this new programming is the ability to print a blank ballot. So when City of Hastings ran out of ballots last year, through no fault of the new clerk, she wasn't part of the ordering process when the ballots were ordered, but irregardless, they ran out of ballots. Fortunately, our printer is in Michigan, in Tecumseh. I made a phone call, they printed off 150 more ballots, and they drove them up here. Yes, there were people that were mad because they were waiting in line forever, but with this new programming, we have the ability now to print off a ballot of whichever style is needed, and then they can go and mark that ballot. Rather than using the VAT machine, which is the touch button voting system, some people don't like that. They want to be able to color in those ovals and know exactly what they voted for. This will allow them to do that and actually have that ballot go go through the tabulator. Any questions for me? I've given you a lot. Mike?
Okay, so you mentioned the state's going to pay for postage and for the ballot box, but it sounds like a lot of these expenses are actually on locally. We have to pay for locally, like the labor. Is the state reimbursing the labor?
No.
And okay, I know at the state level that the legislature couldn't enact mandates without reimbursing for mandates they created, which doesn't always work out. But since this was not state legislation, it was a ballot proposal, does that come into effect legally at all? That if municipalities have been laid with this burden, that they get reimbursed?
What I've been told is, this hopefully will answer your question, is that the state has funding that will reimburse for postage in the interim of getting these permits set up. So if I send you a ballot, an AV ballot, and you decide that you want to vote in person, you don't mail your ballot back, postage is not paid for that return. It has to go through that permit. So, yes, the state has offered and has funding to set up these business reply mail permits, but if you don't utilize it, the clerk will mail it out to you and it'll go through that permit. But if you don't mail it back, then the postage will not be charged. Does that answer your question?
Well, that's just postage. I'm talking about the whole taco. The labor, I think the labor is the really biggest piece, 9 days.
The labor is not a state expense. That is at the local level.
Okay, I just find it hard to believe that that is laid on our local municipalities without any reimbursement. It just doesn't seem right.
Unfunded mandate.
As of now, each township will have to buy another tabulator and pay for 9 days of voting.
And those are practically,
For all three.
practically $5,000 each.
7,500 is what I've been told,
Yeah,
for the tabulator
between
alone.
$7,000 and $8,000.
Yeah, it seemed like there could be some sort of lawsuit, because the legislature can't lay things on local municipalities without some sort of a mandate without reimbursements, but statewide proposals can, where they don't go through the legislature like that. They can lay down mandates without reimbursement.
I can tell you my feeling on this is that they got the cart before the horse. They voted that, they put this proposal together, got it so that it was on the ballot. People voted for it, it passed, and now they're trying to figure out how to implement all of these expenses. And right now, there's no reimbursement for this equipment.
And look at the stress it's gonna put on each clerk. It's gonna put
Exactly.
tremendous amount of stress
Yeah,
on each one of
exactly.
them every day.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Commissioner Getty.
You mentioned that when they get put on the automatic, or the
Automatic bail,
automatic
Mail list.
absentee, yeah, they will automatically get an application for a ballot, not the ballot itself,
they'll
correct?
automatically get an application, and then on that application, there's a place where they can mark the box that they automatically want an AV ballot. So they won't have to apply again. They will just automatically get the AV ballot.
So every election, a ballot will actually be mailed,
Correct.
and that's a big difference than
Correct.
how it's been.
Well, Pam, do you worry about that overlaps when a ballot's gonna be mailed to an address and they've
Well,
moved?
that's part of the programming in QVF. There's a place where the clerk goes in and shows that they received the application for wanting an AV ballot, so they fill in that date. They fill in there's another column that they fill in the date of when that ballot was mailed to this person. There's another column that tells when the ballot came back. So the clerk has to be on their toes and be entering all of these dates of when they come back. I set in on the canvases for every election, and there are times when a ballot was sent out, but there was no date of when it came back. So evidently that person probably came in and voted in person. They would rather vote in person, see their ballot, go through the tabulator, rather than trust our mail, or, didn't get a chance to drop it off to the clerk. So, yeah, there are checks and balances for that.
Okay.
In the scenario that somebody requests the absentee ballot, and then they decide to come in and vote in person, but then what prevents that
They have to
absentee
bring-
ballot?
They have to bring it in and it's spoiled.
What if they don't?
Then they have to go in and if they don't bring the dog ate my ballot.
Or I
story.
just forgot it,
Yeah,
I can't
or
find
I
it.
can't find it, coffee spilled on it, whatever. The clerk would still spoil that ballot and issue them a new ballot. If they came in and tried then to turn in that ballot, it would be noted in there that that ballot was spoiled, so it can't be.
So when it's fed into the tabulator, there
Right.
would be some kind of check?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, actually, before it gets to the tabulator,
Yeah.
it would be when they're checking in at the e-poll book, it would show that they've already been issued a ballot, so they would go in and spoil that ballot and then issue them a new number.
Right, okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, can I have one more question?
Yes.
Thank you. The only thing I even liked about this was the cameras on the voter box.
I know.
Because voter, harvesting, that would help identify people who may be doing this. Who retracted that from the proposal, and how do they do that if that was a statewide proposal?
The Zoom meeting that I watched last week with the legislative hearing and the representatives that were presenting their different House bills talked about recanting the requirement of having cameras. They didn't it was quite brief, and I don't know why they're considering that, but
So that hasn't been done yet?
they haven't voted on that yet, so it's still, dangling out there. I don't know if it's going to be required or not.
Because if this was a statewide proposal, the only way you can undo a part of it is to get the whole legislature by a certain larger majority to, redact that from it. I don't think you can do this by administrative rules.
No, I don't think so either.
Thank you.
Would we have the option, Pam, to require cameras in Berry County for ballot collection sites like this? Even though the state may redact it or do something different, could we implement it locally?
Yeah.
I think we could.
Okay.
I would check into that to be sure, but I think it would be a possibility.
Okay. We've all heard about ballot harvesting and things like that, and I think it would be a good security issue, and people want to know what's going on. We want to know that there's fair elections. So I think that depending on how that goes, this is so fractured right now with so many different ideas, but I would be a proponent for that as far as securing those cameras at elections or requiring them in the county. So,
Yeah, people want to feel their votes counted.
And like I said, I'm giving you the nuts and bolts, but I don't have all the answers because it hasn't been decided yet. At my MAC conference, when it came time, I went specifically because this was on their agenda to talk about, and I wanted to learn more about this. The presenter, I've never seen her without words. She said, I don't really even know what to tell you. She says, it's so up in the air right now. But they've got, a short amount of time to get this figured out and make it work for the presidential primary.
okay. Question from Shelley Lake?
if it's okay, on the extra tabulator, I know, I'm wondering, so if you've got the 9 days prior, and I know it's like, how are we gonna secure those? And then you've got the day of, why can't the day of tabulator be used for the entire 10 days, especially if you're pulling those ballots out and securing them? And one more question, which may be related. You had said that the canvassers had to add 3 tapes together, the 9-day, the day of, and the 80, but at one point you said a tape would not be run for any of it until election night, which would be really cool.
So the 9 days of early voting, they'll be securing the ballots into a secured ballot bag each night, but they won't be running that totals tape until at the end of election day.
Its own tape.
Its own tape. So there's one tape for you. There's the AV counting board tape, and then there's the election day of walk-in voters tape. So they'll be adding those together. So just to complicate things, if I were to consolidate, say, 6 precincts together, not only would they have to have every single ballot style, the tapes, I don't know if you've worked the elections, so you've seen how long these tapes are right now. These tapes would be 9 miles long, and I'm not even exaggerating, because they would contain so many different precincts, and we would be sorting through these tapes, looking for the numbers that we're looking for. And when you have all of the candidates that go on a presidential ballot, 9 miles is probably a small guess.
Yeah,
Joel?
exactly. Let's do Commissioner Tunison
Oh,
first, and then
sorry.
we'll do Joel.
Can I get a clarification on email ballots? Who is eligible to email ballots?
Military.
Just military, not anybody else?
There's a bill we worked on that
Yeah.
their families can too.
Yeah.
Okay,
But right now, I think it's just military.
okay,
We can email the ballot to them, and then they can email it back.
okay, thank you.
There was some discussion that overseas contractors were going to be eligible, and there's several other parties were going to be added to that list, but at this
Right.
time, it is only military.
Right, or their family, I mean,
Or
like,
their
you know,
family,
yeah.
okay.
I-
Okay,
I'm not clear still on the tabulator, buying a new tabulator. Are you guys, like, can we use the same one for all 10 days?
I don't have a really good answer for you on that, because it doesn't make sense to me why we have to go to that expense of, except that tabulator has those numbers on it, and if you can't run those totals until election night, you have to have a separate tabulator for election day.
Okay,
right.
thank you.
It might be a gotcha, you know, here's another way to sell tabulators, you know.
Yeah, still tabulators, yeah.
Joel?
One of the reasons I was not a proponent of this is because potentially I would have to cast my ballot in a precinct of a clerk that I did not get the chance to vote for. Is that gonna be happening?
I missed part of that.
Oh, one of the reasons I didn't vote for this is because there was a chance that I would have to cast my ballot in a precinct of a clerk I did not vote for. Is that going to happen in Berry County?
What you're really asking me is, am I gonna consolidate?
Yes.
Well, for the presidential primary, the majority of my clerks that attend the clerk meetings are not in favor of giving up their voters. So the short answer is no. Down the road, I don't know what will happen.
Well, Pam, we appreciate your attention to the details on this. There is a lot of information to come out, and I'm expecting we're going to have another one of these powwows at some point in the near future with more information, so.
You might, you might.
So, but anyways, we appreciate your time on this. I
Thank
know
you.
it's been an interesting process going through this, so thank you for all you do, and your staff does for us as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pam.
Apply for a scanner for tapes, I'll chip in.
Board, we're going to take a 7-minute recess, and we'll be back with our presentation. The board can come back in session. Barb Hurlis, come on down. Good morning, Barb.
Good morning. I'm Barb Hurlis, Berry County Register of Deeds for the new ones that don't know me. I wanted to come in front of you to let you know exactly what the Register of Deeds responsibilities and duties are. And a lot of people really don't know. A lot of people that come in the office have no idea what we really do. The responsibilities of the Register of Deeds office is to review legal documents that need to be recorded for recordability, to build and to record them, to index them, to maintain them, protect them, and preserve them forever. Once something is put on record, it's there forever. It's never removed. And then it's made available for the public to search. If somebody comes in and they want to search, we have 2 public workstations that they can do the searching. Title companies can do the searching. We do not do the searching other than maybe finding the last deed or last mortgage for a person. But everything is done by statute. We do not prepare legal documents. We do not help with legal documents. We do not hand out forms. We do not give legal advice. That's unauthorized practice of law. Citizens really should seek an attorney's opinion on everything and have an attorney draw up the legal documents before they record them, because once they're recorded, if there's a problem, it becomes their problem, not the government's problem, not the employees' problems, but their problems, and it becomes a civil matter. Every day we have somebody walk into our office and say, you didn't do your job because I've got problems with my neighbor. We just record them, we just put them on record. We'll help you find your deeds, direct you which way to go, but we will not give you legal advice or help you with that. But our main purpose is to follow the state statutes. We work for the people, but we follow those state statutes, and when somebody comes in and says, you work for us and you will do this and this, it has to meet those state statutes. The next page, there's several ways that we get documents. We used to get most everything by mail or walk-in. Now we also do e-recordings. This drawing that we have here basically shows how we get our documents. We get it by mail, FedEx, UPS, title companies, attorneys, walk-ins. In 2022, we recorded 5,650 documents that came in over the counter. We also recorded e-recordings, and I'll talk about what e-recordings are in a little bit, but we recorded in 2022 7,051 documents that came in through e-recordings. E-recordings are faster for the customer to get things turned around and back to them, get it recorded and back to it. It's still the same amount of work for the Register of Deeds office. It's just a different format of how we look at things, how we review things. But once it's recorded, it automatically goes right back instantly to the person who sends it. Once these documents come in, the staff opens them up, reviews them for recordability. The first thing they always do is timestamp them in. That's the most important thing. The year, the date, the minute that any of these documents come in, they are time-stamped. If it's a document that needs to be certified for back taxes, it then goes to the treasurer's office. It is reviewed, and if there's no back taxes for the last 5 years, it's certified, and it comes back to us. If it's not in recordable form, we reject it. When we reject something, we scan this into the system. We index it so it can be found. We tell the people what needs to be done as far as it's not in recordable form because here's why. And then we mail it back. When these documents come in, we keep them in packages if they're over the counter because they all are returned in that very same package. But we review them, we record them, we scan them into our system, we assign them a number, we enter in all the information, where they came from, where they're gonna go back to. We review the funds, make sure that the funds are what they need to be recorded. Electronically, it's the very same thing, but we are manually entering in all that information to make sure it matches up. I will say that e-recordings are faster for the people who use that as far as lending institutions, title companies, attorneys, but it is still the same amount of work for the Register of Deeds, but I also think it's a lot more work for the treasurer's office because everything comes in through ACH, credit cards, and it's more work for that treasurer to keep track of things. And we pull reports every day, so it matches, but we always have to match with the bank statements. Once things are recorded and it's assigned a number, and it's put into the system, and then it goes to one of the staff members to index. We index the grantor, the grantee, the date, the consideration amount, if there is any related documents that are on that face of that document. From there, it goes to the next step is our part-time employee who is a specialist in indexing and reading legal descriptions. What she does is she comes in and she posts all these documents to the legal descriptions. And she's an asset to this county because she knows her stuff. From there, it then goes to my chief deputy who audits everything, makes sure everything is accurate, make sure that the spelling's done right, it's posted to the right township, make sure everything's done correctly. Then she moves the proof date ahead in the computer system. Once that is moved ahead in our computer system, it is open for the public to view. They can come into the courthouse and use our public workstations. They can use our applications through our software to access these records. Title companies do that, attorneys, lending institutions. Once that proof date is moved ahead, our software system automatically takes all of the documents that needs to go to the townships as far as anything that's transferred, and it automatically bundles them into the different townships, cities, villages, and it sends it off every 3 days to our assessors so they have all the documents they need. They send it off through what they call Monarch. Also, the assessors have access to our Laredo searching ability so they can search any of our documents and all of our documents at any time they want to. They don't have that right to print, but they have that right to view. Once it also goes into this Monarch, all of the images are accumulated and dropped onto a desktop icon on us where we then send them off and have them microfilmed. By law, we have to have a duplicate on-site and one off-site. So everything we do is done by statute, but that's our basic workflow. We go to our next site, our next page. The state statute has recording fees. In Michigan, it's a flat rate fee of $30 for every document that's recorded. $21 of that is for recording fees. $5 of that goes into an automation fund. And then there's the MSSR, which is the remonumentation. Every document, except there's a few that we do not collect that on, depending on statutes. So $3.96 goes to the state for every document except those that are exempt. $4 is kept by the county. That money is collected by the Register of Deeds and quarterly sent out to the state. For those that the statute says we don't collect that MSR, then the recording fees become $25 per recording document, $5 for the automation fee. There's also, any document needs to be certified by the Treasurer's Office. There's a $5 certification fee up to 25 legal descriptions per document. And that money is collected either by the treasurers or by us. We can also collect it and it's put into our system and then it's turned over to the treasurers. There's also on anything that property that is transferred from one ownership to another ownership and there's a consideration amount, there is transfer tax. This is not property tax, it's transfer tax on the value of that property at time of transfer. And in here I've given you a little example, like if you have $100,000 transfer for a piece of property, $750 goes to the state and the county keeps $110. That's all collected through the Register of Deeds and again submitted to the state and to the county. Then we have searching and copy fees. This is something that you've probably heard in the past that Register of Deeds are double dipping because they charge to record, but they also charge for copies and searching. It's all state mandated, it's all under state statutes, how much we charge, and it has been set since in the early 60s of what is charged per page, per search, what we do search, we charge at least a minimum of $5 and $1 a page for copies. In the past, you probably heard the double dipping thing. That happened because another department didn't realize that because they had access to all of our information, they didn't have a right to give it out free, and they were actually giving it out free. So when I became register, I stopped that. They weren't happy with that because they had been giving it out free and helping a lot of local attorneys, a lot of title companies. People weren't happy with that, but they didn't have that right to give things out free. It is a state mandated and it is a state statute. The Register of Deeds indexes by grantor and grantee. That is all public knowledge, and you can come in and use the public workstations to search. We also index by the track, which means the legal descriptions. And we post to the townships, to the villages, to the cities, to the sections, to the township and the ranges. If you come in and use our track books or our track on the computer, it's $1 a minute. And that is something that the commissioners control that fee. Whenever we come in front of the commissioners to control that, we always reach out to every other county to figure out how much, and that is the going rate, $1 a minute. And then I want to talk about the automation fund. That $5 that we collect for each document that is recorded goes into a fund that only the Register of Deeds office can use to better serve the public as far as implementing new computer system, educating, just better service all the way around. It's also very important that anything that's recorded is recorded in a timely manner. Why? Because our whole economy is based on getting these things recorded, getting them on record so loans can be processed, so real estate can transfer, so funds can be distributed to wherever they need to be distributed. And it's extremely important to get things on record because Michigan is a state race state, meaning if I give two people deeds to my property, one holds onto that deed, the other person goes and records it, they will actually get that property. Not that a lot of people do that, but it is a race state, so the first one recorded wins. The next few slides is basically our state statutes. It looks pretty simple. There's a page and a half of recording requirements. Now these are basic recording requirements that every legal document has to have. It looks simple. By the time that you get done with it, we have a binder this thick how these statutes actually play out. And we actually have attorneys' opinions on some of these statutes because every legal document is a little different. But those are the two the requirements. Then I also added in here the statute for the automation fund. Like I said, it's $5 for every document. It's only for the Register of Deeds office to use to better ourselves. I wanted to talk a little bit about what e-recordings is. E-recordings is, what it is companies are set up. They have to they're mandated by the state statutes and regulated by state statutes. And anybody that uses them has to go through e-provider and be licensed. And they pay a service to go through this. Then these e-recorder providers, and we have 5 of them here in Barry County that we're linked to, actually is linked right into our system, the Fiddler system, so they can electronically send things to us that are in recordable form. We receive them. The Treasurer's Office receives anything that needs to be certified. They review them, and then it comes to us. Or they come right directly to us, but it's a secured site that's linked right into the Fiddler systems. And anybody that uses that has to be licensed through one of these providers. We also use merchant services. We use AllPay, the Fiddler technology for credit cards, debit cards. We also use the BSNA program, the GIS program. We've all heard about that. The Register of Deeds, there is myself in the office, there's my chief deputy who is full-time, there's a deputy who is full-time, and then we have the special indexer who is 19 hours a week. The software that we use is the Fiddler technology. We went to this software in July 2021. There is basically 8 different applications that we use in the software. Each one of them does different things. There's one for just recording, collecting the money, reports. There is different ones that host our images, that send our images to the assessors, to the different departments that need it. There is Laredo. Laredo is the one that people use to search for attorneys, title companies. Anybody that has an account with us can actually put money onto an escrow account, and there's a monthly subscription, and they can access all of our information right from their office. There's also the Monarch, which does house all of our images. There's Tapestry is what basically the public would use. There's a fee to use that for the public. It's $6.95. The public can go into Tapestry, and for every search they do, it's $6.95 plus $1 for copies, but they can find their own deed if they want to. The one that I wanted to talk to most about today is the eighth one on this list is Property Fraud Alert. I don't know how many of you heard about the Property Fraud Alert, but it's been in the papers. I've had it on WBCH. It's been in a lot of TV programs, news. But we here in Berry County do have a free Property Fraud Alert. It's free to their customers. Anybody can sign up. They don't sell or harvest their information at all. It's just for property owners that own property and want to know if something's been recorded against their property. And how that works is they sign up with email, or they sign up with their phone. And if something is recorded in our office and we index their name, they automatically get an alert. In fact, they'll get a couple alerts saying, did you record this? Something has recorded. They can call our office and we can actually tell them, hey, this is what's recorded. And they'll know, yes, it was myself that did that, or no, we've got problems, and they can look into that. But that is a free service. I'll leave some brochures over here on the table talking about that. It's been out in the papers quite a few times. I think at this point we've got like 600 property owners that are signed up, but it is a free service to property owners, and it's a very good service. Like I said, Laredo is for title companies, attorneys that want to do searching in their offices. It's also for equalization, the mapping department, planning and zoning, the treasurer's office. They have access to this where they can search if they need to look up something. They don't have a right to print and sell these copies, but they have a right to search this, and all of this is free to them. The Laredo accounts, anybody has a Laredo account can put money on an account. They can maintain it through Laredo Connect, and they can put funds onto their account. They can see exactly what they've searched, exactly what they've printed. It's a very good service for a lot of attorneys and title companies. Of course, we have the Laredo Track that it charges $1 a minute. If they sign up for it, every minute they're in there searching that legal descriptions, they charge them $1. And we've been seeing more and more use of that. That $1 per image also will include, or $1 per minute, also includes our track books that we have in our back room. Those I have been trying to get on into the Fiddler system. It was part of our agreement. But after hiring somebody to review these images, they're not ready to be put into this system. We need to work on that a little bit more. But I would say within a year or so, those all should be on there. And anybody that wants to search those old books should be able to do it right from their office. The next page, yes, this one, we've all heard of the GIS, or the property search that's on the internet. We, this last year, linked our stuff to that GIS mapping on the website. And if you take a look at the picture, you can see anybody that chooses this, if you type in a parcel number, a street address, or a name, you can pull up information on that property. What we've got pulled up here is the courthouse. If you look at the detailed over to the right-hand side, under the parcel number, it says, click here for recorded documents, where that blue arrow is. You click there, if you're John Doe and you're looking at stuff and you want to look up your records, you click on that, it'll take you right to Tapestry, where you can put in your credit card, debit card information, and it'll charge you $6.95, but it'll pull up a list of anything that has that parcel number in it. And you can see the diagram here. It'll pull up all the mortgages, quitclaim deeds, anything that was recorded with parcel numbers that are indexed. That's a really nice service for people that want to look up their deed on a Saturday night and they don't know what to do. Go into the GIS and then go to Tapestry. The next page is basically, this is what we paid for the Fiddler system. And to implement that system in 2021, 22, and 23, it was $61,500 a year, what it cost us to do that. This next year is going to drop because just to our maintenance, which is $46,500. This cost is totally paid by anybody who uses the system. It's covered by anybody who purchases copies. It is covered completely by the searches. It's not out of the taxpayers' money. And if you turn the next page, you're going to see the revenue that we actually brought in 2022. The Monarch brought just over $62,000 in copies that were sold. Usually the copies that are purchased are not the county, it's outside the county. It's title plants and different people that want to purchase copies. A certain percent of that is kept by Fiddler, but a large percent of that comes back to us. It's the same with the Tapestry. If somebody goes out and uses Tapestry, yes, they charge them $6.95. A certain percent of that goes to Fiddler, they keep that, but the rest comes back to us. So you can see that when those fees are charged, it actually pays for our software. And I think that's what the public wants to see, is software that they can use when they want to use it, but they're not paying for it if they're not using it. The next couple pages are just the type of documents that we actually do. And in 2022, we recorded 12,701 documents, which totals 70,210 pages. We review every page to make sure that that's in recordable form, make sure it's legible and it's scanned to the system. So it's a lot of work, whether it's with e-recording or if it's by paper, it's still a lot of work. But you can see that list is a large list of documents. It's not just deeds or mortgages, but it's anything that pertains to real estate. The next is accounting. I wanted to show you a little bit about when we charge $30 a document, we don't just take that $30 and put it in a pot and at the end of the day count it up and say, here we go. Everything is broke out into the different accounts that the funds go to. It's broke out electronically for the e-recordings, the escrow accounts. It is broke out for ACH, if it's check or it's cash. Once we enter that into that computer system, we have the computer system set up so it automatically separates all those fees, puts them into the accounts that needs to be, and then every day we run a report that goes to the treasurer's office, who also backs everything up and it matches perfectly. And as you can see, in 2022, we brought in close to $4 million. Most of that goes to the state, but there's a lot of funds and it's all broken into separate little accounts. Page 19, you can see when those are all put together from these different accounts, cash, credit cards, checks, ACH. These are the amounts that are going to each one of these accounts. And you can see that the state revenue was close to $3 million. The county revenue was close to $900,000. The automation fund was about $33,000. So we go through a lot of revenue and it has to be put into the right accounts. That next page is just the breakdown of what it costs to keep that register deeds office functioning. And I won't go into that. That's basically our budget. We stay within our budget best as possible. The last page is just things that we have done in 2022 and 2023. We set up reports into the computer system so we no longer have to type them up by hand. These accounts, they're all set up behind the scenes. They all have to be manually set up in the computer system. So that's what we've been doing for the last year, was setting these up instead of staff manually doing this. It's all done electronically and generated electronically. We still have to watch to make sure everything is flowing properly, especially if there's updates in the computer system. We've also been training all new staff. We had a total, during COVID, a total change of staff. People went home to work, so we had to find new people to come in. So the staff that we have is new, they're being trained, they're doing great. We've also set up these escrow accounts for the Laredo customers who can now access all of our records right from their home offices or from their offices. We've also set up a report for the MSR that's automatically generated instead of at the end of the quarter, we have to manually figure out all these. It's now generated through the computer system, and the Register of Deeds turns that in quarterly. So that is all taken care of. Of course, we've promoted the fraud alert through the media, through the townships. A lot of our townships have agreed the next tax roll that goes out will have a flyer in them stating, you want to sign up for this program. It's a good program, it's free. We've also reviewed, about a year ago, I came in front of the commissioners and asked to review our track index images that we thought was complete, that we needed to load into the Fiddler system. These are our old track books. We hired somebody to start to review those. Within 2 weeks, we knew that these track images that we have were not usable. There was a lot that are not legible. There's a lot of them that were not microfilmed correctly. So we stopped that project. That project is something that we have to do in the future and get those preserved and put into the Fiddler system so people can start to use those. We also, of course, linked the tapestry with the GIS program, which is not a small chore because there's licensing that has to be done. And Fiddler is licensed through the GIS program, and we are now officially linked up to that. We've also set up a master disaster recovery. If something was, God forbid, to happen to this courthouse, fire, tornado, or anything, there's a plan set up that we could be up and running within an hour. We've got laptops ready. We've got the whole program where the staff knows what they need to do within that 72 hours. It's extremely important if we have a fire to have all of our records taken care of. They are frozen, they are preserved. But at this point, everything that we have in Berry County is into the computer system except the track index and about, maybe 20 years worth of mortgages, which will be put in probably within the next month. We've been working on that. That was also part of the agreement we had with Fiddler, was to get these images in. And then all the images that we have in Berry County from the beginning of time until present are in the computer system. They're not indexed, but we work on that when we have downtime. We set up a way of indexing those. We've got portals where you can index. If there's downtime, my staff goes in and they index these. We're back into the very early 1900s now where we are indexing, which the more you get indexed, the better off you are. I think that's about it. I think that's about all of what we've done. And any questions?
Questions from commissioners?
Short one.
Commissioner Campo.
Hi, Barb.
Hi.
When you were talking about that property fraud alert, how do you go about signing up for that?
You can come into the office, you can call the office, you can go onto the website, go into the Register of Deeds. There's a link that you can click on. It takes you right out to the Fiddler site where you can sign up. It only takes a matter of seconds. But we have calls every day that we type it in for them and they're there. It's a free service. It's a great service.
Sounds like a good service.
It is. It's a good service.
Absolutely. Additional questions?
Yes.
Do you, you said you were going to leave some copies of the
Yes.
brochure.
I've got some I'll leave them right over here.
Those would be great for us as commissioners to distribute to the township meetings when we go as well. Do you have plenty of those, or is that something we could share electronically?
It's on our website. I did purchase a large amount of them, but it costs money. I did reach out to each township in the last 3 months, see if they would send them out through their tax rolls. And I have reached out and offered to have anybody that wants them. I've got them in the local title companies, different places. But yes, we can have more of them produced. It's not right in our budget right at this time, but we can get more. But
Great.
yes.
And then the second question, the fees that were set by statute in the 1960s, have those fees increased with inflation?
No, they have, as far as copies and searching, no.
Yeah.
They have stayed the very same since the 60s, all through the state of Michigan. The only thing that has changed is the recording requirements. It used to be like $12 for a document, $3 for every additional page. They went to a flat rate fee, which is a lot easier for every register to figure.
I imagine that it's cost more to do that now than it did in 1960.
Possibly. There's computers, though, that really help us. It speeds up the process.
I appreciate the detail.
Okay. Any other questions?
Very thorough. One question.
Sure.
Since you mentioned it, what is the beginning of time in Berry County? What's the oldest
It's-
recorded documents we have?
I think it's 1890, no, it's 1831, I think, is the very first one. If you ever want to come in and see it, we have the book in there. I think it's 1831.
1831 is the beginning of time for Berry County. Good to know. Really appreciate the thoroughness of the report, the details. We have 4 new commissioners, so it's good to get an education up and running and know what all the departments of the county do.
Yep.
So very detailed, and it seems overwhelming to just have you go through it and tell us about it all, that you're doing a great job with a little bit of staff. So
Thank you. If you ever have questions, our door is always open. Feel free to come.
I know Fiddler's been a great, I remember when we approved that 3-4 years ago, and you always wonder if these software programs are actually going to do what they say they're going to do. But it sounds like Fiddler is doing the job.
It is an awesome system. There's a lot of work to it because everything has to be programmed per county, per all of the different counts. It's been a lot of work, but it's also been fun.
Fun. Thank you, Barb.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Barb.
Continue on. Public hearings, we have none. Items for consideration, Commissioner Getty.
Mr. Chairman, I move for the approval of prepaid invoices in the amount of $6,644,152.79.
Is there support?
Support, Campbell.
Motion by Getty, support by Campbell for approval of prepaid invoices in the amount of $6,644,152.79. Discussion. Hearing none, Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Campbell.
Aye.
Doster.
Aye.
Getty.
Aye.
Hatfield.
Aye.
Smelker absent. Tunison.
Aye.
Colton.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye. The motion is approved.
I move for the approval of claims in the amount of $70,622.84.
Is there support?
Support.
Motion by Getty, support by Carlton for approval of claims in the amount of $70,622.84. Discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Doster.
Aye.
Getty.
Aye.
Hatfield.
Aye.
Smelker absent. Tunison.
Aye.
Colton.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye. The motion is approved.
I move for the approval of commissioner reimbursements, mileage in the amount of $537.76.
Is there support?
Support, Campbell.
Motion by Getty, support by Campbell for approval of commissioner reimbursement mileage in the amount of $537.76. Discussion. Hearing none, Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Getty.
Aye.
Hatfield.
Aye.
Smelker? Absent. Tunison?
Aye.
Colton?
Aye.
Campbell?
Aye.
Doster?
Aye.
Jackson?
Aye. The motion is approved.
I move for the approval to accept option number 2, the actual cash value from MMRMA of $18,500, less the salvage value of $4,575 for a payment of $13,925 for the 2016 Chevrolet Tahoe VIN number 1GNLCDE C6GR 311640, which was deemed a total loss due to hail damage.
Is there support?
Support, Hatfield.
Motion by Getty, support by Hatfield for the approval to accept option 2, the actual cash value from MMRMA of $18,500, less the salvage value of $4,575 for payment of $13,925 for the 2016 Chevy Tahoe, which was deemed a total loss due to hail damage. Discussion. Anything you want to add? Under Sheriff Sixberry.
Only if you have questions. The main thing is that the vehicle is still very operable, sound mechanically, based on what our mechanic, Mike Hanger, says, as well as the body itself. Obviously, you're not going to see the other main damage that's up on the roof of the vehicle unless you're up above, and that's not going to stop us from using that vehicle. And I hate to get rid of a vehicle that we can still use for 4+ years, maybe even longer. That would still be usable for just replacing basically $1,500 to $2,000 worth of parts on it. And it'd save us money than trying to have to go buy a $39,000 vehicle again with the replacement of $18,500.
Okay, awesome. Additional questions or discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Hatfield?
Aye.
Smelker absent. Tunison?
Aye.
Colton?
Aye.
Campbell?
Aye.
Doster?
Aye.
Getty?
Aye.
Jackson?
Aye. The motion is approved.
I move for the approval to increase the 2023 approved capital budget in the vehicle fund to purchase a 2023 Chevrolet light-duty truck for marine use by $10,503 from $29,338 to $39,841 per the attached quote.
Is there support?
Support Doster.
Motion by Getty, support by Doster for the approval to increase the 2023 approved capital budget in the vehicle fund to purchase a 2023 Chevrolet light-duty truck for marine use by $10,503 from $29,338 to $39,841 per the attached quote. Discussion. What do we have here?
Well, unfortunately, from last year, the capital outlay budget we requested in June of 2022 for 2023, the bid budget, the bid for the vehicle went from, on my deal, from up to $10,000, which we can no longer see. We can no longer see what the quotes are. We have to actually get to the dealer and request it, and it actually was that price back in March. So we were trying to figure out how this would work significantly, because back then in June of 2022, when we were putting in the budget, that was what the price was. We could actually see the quotes through my deal. Now they say see dealer or contact dealer for the amount. That's unfortunate is what the price is for what it went up to compared to what it was. That was the main reason, and the reason is this is time sensitive because we had it set up for June 6th, but obviously that was canceled. And then we got this quote from bid May 24th from Berger Chevrolet, and I told them we'd have it hopefully one way or the other, let them know by the 13th, which is today, and that's the reason we didn't wait for another cow for June 20th.
So they're not interested in honoring their quote from 2022, huh?
Well, that was my deal estimate, obviously, from
Okay.
then. And now we can't even, no one can even see them now. You just have to contact through my deal, so.
Now you just have to go through a dealer, Jason? You have to go through a dealer and not my deal?
Well,
Is that what
The
you're getting
dealer,
at?
there's my deals, and it's the dealers will show you that they have the vehicles of
Oh.
possibly similar vehicles accessible.
Okay.
And that's the other part. They had two on May 23rd when I talked to him, and then he sent the quote for me for May 24th, and he said that was basically what was requested back in June of 2022
Okay.
on my deal.
And this was requested in the capital budget last year.
Correct, for the 29,338.
Michael, any additional input on that? He's ordering pizza for us. So
Okay.
Any additional input on that from the 29,000 to the 39,000 for the vehicle? It was in the capital budget. They're not gonna honor the quote, or the quote's no longer valid, so.
Yeah, it's just, we do the best we can to determine that a year in advance, and with COVID and everything that's gone on, vehicles have, we don't get a good estimate, so
Okay.
at the time, we're trying to budget for that. So, we're really gonna have to up our budget numbers, and even then, I don't know that we won't be doing this again as we go forward. It used to be with vehicles, we could be spot on, but that's just not the case anymore.
Okay.
I guess
Additional
the issue
questions from
is-
commissioners?
I'm sorry, the other issue is, January 1st starts the new year for the, you know what I'm saying? But now they're not even putting them on the My Deal. The fleet packages for our Tahoes for the patrol vehicles are a little bit different, if that makes any sense. They actually have only upped them from last year to this year, like $300 or $800 or $500, something like that. But they were already automatically a state bid with everything at 39,000 something. I don't have it right offhand because we already purchased those and grabbed them, so.
Okay. Okay, if there's no additional questions, Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Smelker absent. Tunison.
Aye.
Colton.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Doster.
Aye.
Getty.
Aye.
Hatfield.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye. The motion is approved. Item F.
I move to approve resolution number 23-16, a resolution for approval for the Berry County Parks and Recreation Commission to apply for a Michigan DNR Spark grant to fund improvements within Charlton Park Recreation Area.
Is there support?
Aye, right here.
Motion by Getty, support by Colton, to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval of Resolution 23-16, a resolution for approval for the Berry County Parks and Recreation Commission to apply for a Michigan DNR Spark grant to fund improvements within the Charlton Park and Recreation area. Hello, Dan.
Good morning, everyone. I can sympathize with Jason. Buying equipment and trucks is a different ballgame on state contract these days, and, yeah, way overly complicated. The Parks Commission is requesting the Board of Commissioners approval to apply for a Spark grant under the guidelines of the Michigan DNR and their application process. It does require a resolution from the highest governing body, and obviously that is you folks. I apologize a little bit on the timeline. I had anticipated the deadline being June 29th. Turns out it's June 26th. And that's my reason for coming up today. This is a little bit. We've gone in and changed ours a little bit from our original submittal back in November, and mini shelters. They're in somewhat of disrepair. They were actually constructed as a part of a grant program about 40 years ago. And then erecting a new, larger, just one shelter at that location, play structure, replacing our current porta-john with a vault toilet at that location, and then an accessible canoe kayak launch that would be wheelchair accessible. And actually, it's considered a universal accessible launch because of its ability to transition people from either a walker or a wheelchair onto a platform and then ultimately into a canoe or kayak. And they're actually just pretty cool for anybody, honestly. And then some parking improvements in that area as well. So our total grant request is for $352,800. There is no cost to the county in any type of match or anything associated with it. It's just a straightforward grant. And you can see I did break out the preliminary costs for each of the items that we were discussing, and just seeking your approval on it. So now I'll answer any questions if you have any.
Questions from commissioners? I do not have any. I remember when that came before us before, and I was impressed with the scope of the request. So hopefully, second time through, this will yield some better results for us on this, because it'd be awesome to get that type of a grant for park improvements.
I don't know the timeline. They've been pretty aggressive on trying to get these particular types of grants turned around a little quicker, so hopefully we'll hear something later in the fall. But I know they're also working on trust fund grants and land and water stuff right now, so I don't know the turnaround, but I'll let you know as soon as I know. So
Awesome. Thank you, Dan. Okay, if there's no further questions, Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Tunison,
Aye.
Carlton,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Doster,
Aye.
Getty,
Aye.
Hatfield,
Aye.
Smoker is absent, Jackson.
Aye. The motion is approved. Good luck, Dan.
Not to miss an opportunity to do a couple things at once. I did bring some of our regular event posters in this morning. I'll leave the stack up here and get them later for those. If you've got a place you want to put some of these, I know you guys visit your townships and local units, certainly take some of those to those folks as well. We have more available at the park also, but this kind of outlines our event season for the summer. We are wrapping up school groups right now. This week, I think, kind of brings that to a slow end. Sunday's obviously Father's Day. I get to hang out with, 5,000 or 6,000 of my closest friends for Father's Day, not my family. So if you get an opportunity, come out and enjoy Father's Day with us there at Charlton Park. It'll be a good time. Get to see a lot of different automobiles and have some fun. And then last but not least, I'm going to pass this around. I know John's not here, but it's our sign up for the pancake breakfast at the Gas and Steam Show in July. This year is the 7th and 8th, so that would be on Saturday morning, the 8th. And the times are on there. If you're interested in helping serve some pancakes or mix up some pancakes, then we'd certainly appreciate that opportunity. So
All right.
I'll leave this here.
Awesome.
I've been here most of the morning. I really need to go. I apologize.
No problem.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Dan. Unfinished business, we have none. New business, we have none. County Administrator's report.
I'm all set, thank you.
Chairperson's report. I am all set as well. Vice Chairperson's report.
All set as well.
Commissioner reports. Commissioner Doster.
I have nothing.
Commissioner Colton.
Nashville, Saturday, we have our cart show, and they've got the first layer of pavement down on the $820,000 parking lot project in the back, and it's really nice looking, and it's really going to be great for the town.
Awesome. Commissioner Getty.
I have nothing.
Commissioner Tunison.
Last night at Carlton, I want to bring this to people's attention. Mercy Ambulance has been in service in Berry County, Hastings, for decades. And the state mandated that they had to update their equipment when they had perfectly working equipment, which totaled around $145,000, which was a total expense that they were not expecting. So they basically are coming to the townships that they service and asking for some additional funding. And I know the city, Commissioner Hatfield was there last night, and the city has committed $50,000 towards that, and they're gonna be asking Carlton Township, Hastings Charter Township, who else, Dave, you know? I know they're gonna ask Hope too for some additional funding, but I feel it's essential that we help and keep this service here because it's vital to the community, so. There's only 4 ambulance services. They have 2. Thornapple has 1 and Nashville has 1. So you can imagine if Mercy was not here servicing this area, how long you'd have to wait for an ambulance. So just want to give a shout out to that.
Awesome. Commissioner Campbell.
I did visit Syria Township, although they always have many problems, as we all do. They have one looming right now with they're a 4-entity group there that splits their fire service with Bellevue, a couple others, and Bellevue, the village of, is backing out of that contract now, so they've got some issues to deal with.
Yes. Okay. Limited public comment at this time. Any member of the public wishing to address the board may do so for up to 3 minutes.
Joel Ibbotson, Rutland Township again. Thanks, Pam, for the presentation. I learned a lot of that. There's really nothing to learn yet, unfortunately, from the state level. I have to work on that. But it gives me some concerns to talk to my state legislators about, which, by the way, our next meeting for the Government Accountability Forum is June 22nd. We invite everyone there. We have former state rep Joel Sheltron from West Branch who will be there, as well as our very young commissioner and former state rep Mike Colton. And the purpose of the meeting is going to learn things from their perspective so that we can engage with our government in a more effective manner. To the discussion on voting, I'm probably an anomaly in the room. I want my firearm rights just like I want my voting rights, free and unregistered. And if that didn't offend everyone in the room, I don't know what will. But the Michigan, there's some misconceptions on that resolution and some lies as far as I'm concerned that were put out. For example, one being that this would eliminate voter ID requirements in Michigan. Michigan never had voter ID requirements to begin with, and out of principle, you will see if you look up the voting records in Rutland Township that there is 1 or 2 boneheads that refuse to vote with their ID. You're looking at one of them. So, you know, and the other thing that is incredibly frustrating to me is that this early voting process, to me, I believe it's unnecessary in the sense that you've always been able to walk into your township clerk and get an absentee vote or ballot for no reason. I do it many times because I'm a truck driver. A lot of times I'll be gone the end of the week or whenever voting is, and throughout the week, I'll go in, I'll get an absentee ballot, and I'll submit it right then and there. Very painless process, but unfortunately, it's passed. We have to deal with the consequences of that. But anyway, thanks.
Thank you, Joel. Additional public comment?
Yeah, I think as commissioners, you have the responsibility to fund the sheriff and fund the jail. It was brought up in Maple Grove that, well, you don't have the responsibility for the COA. That's when I found out the COA is looking at a $7 million building as compared to well, you're gonna use county taxpayer dollars for $3 million. The larger the building, the more it costs. If you don't start looking at how you reduce your cost and reduce government, how are you gonna pay for a jail? Commissioner Carlton says he's not hearing about no millage, but when Commissioner Jackson was just a commissioner instead of a chairman, he brought up he wanted to use a millage to fund the jail. So you have a role and responsibility to fund the sheriff's department, use our tax dollars for that. You gave away millions of dollars, not knowing where they're really coming from, it wasn't explained, for raises that went to the top, very little to the bottom. You say you want to attract people, but you don't follow through with your actions. You had the opportunity to, because you had the full deck of cards, and you could give the cards out any way you wanted because you had a contract in place. At both township meetings, Commissioner Carlton said, oh, it was 8-0 vote for those raises. Doesn't mean you did the right thing for the new people. So it just comes down to you're going to have to start looking at how you're going to cut. Because I hope that the taxpayers in Berry County said you have enough of our money. I certainly can't afford more taxes on my property. And I've already been told they're going to go up. Every year, they always have been. Been here for 35 years and they've always went up. So I'm just sitting here saying, it was sad what I heard, especially at Maple Grove, about how the collective bargaining unit is for the senior people. But that was what was said at the meeting. Most employees are going to be happy with what you did. Probably not the low people, the ones that need it, the ones that are starting out. Thank you.
Additional public comment? Hearing none. Commissioner comments. Commissioner Doster.
Has the COA Building Committee met yet?
Steering committee?
Yeah, the steering committee.
The steering committee is, I talked to Courtney yesterday. She's going to send out an email to the members on the steering committee.
That's been done.
Yeah.
Has it?
So
Okay.
They
Yeah.
haven't announced
The day,
the
but
date, but they did send out a survey to
Okay.
find the date.
Perfect.
I'd like to be on the email list for the minutes of it when it gets going.
Okay, awesome. Can point that out to Courtney, but I know they're meeting with an architect and they're getting things rolling just as far as crystallizing some of the vision that they want for the building, and we'll see where that all goes forward, so. But the steering committee has yet to meet, but I'm assuming that'll be in the next couple weeks.
Yes.
So,
All right. Thank you.
Commissioner Carlton.
I'm just still flabbergasted, and I just find it incredulous that, okay, so in Berry County, Proposal 2, we here in Berry County voted 16,049 against and only 13,829 for Proposal 2. So this county did not want this, but people from outside this county are laying this burden upon our clerks, our townships, our everybody, an unfunded mandate that didn't come from the legislature. It comes from a proposal. Mike, is there any, you've been to the administrators' conference. Has there been any talk of some sort of lawsuit on this sort of thing, that a proposal creates an unfunded mandate?
Actually wasn't, but I can reach out to Mac and see. I hadn't heard any with regard to a proposal. And push back, if you may, on an unfunded mandate. Whether that qualifies, if you may, as a Headley violation.
That'd be great information. I'd like to know that as well. You know, so,
That's my statement.
okay. Commissioner Getty?
I really appreciated both. Am I on? I really appreciated both presentations today. I think those types of presentations are very informative to us as commissioners, and I know there were a lot of questions about the changes in voting. I did run into Rochelle Smith at the Yankee Springs Township meeting. She presented there, and she is on the elections committee. And so she I think is a real asset to us as from Berry County with her clerk background and the information that she's been able to bring to that committee. But yeah, I mean, this is, that's a lot of expense that we're gonna have to take on. Very unfortunate.
Absolutely.
Every township's.
It's
expense.
huge, and these township budgets are small, so
Yes.
this is a significant
It is.
cost.
And
Commissioner
9 days.
Tennyson.
Pardon?
Carry on, Commissioner
Carry-
Tennyson.
Well, I too want to thank Pam and Barb for today's presentations. It was great. And shout out to all the clerks and how hard they work. Every township I go to, they're very dedicated people. And I know Pam and her office is very dedicated, even with their short staff that she's dealing with there. So, and as far as the cameras, I think that's essential, that people are gonna feel that there's integrity in the voting system on the drop boxes. I think that you were right, Mr. Chairman, when you brought that up. That's about it.
Thank you. Commissioner Campbell? Got you on commissioner comments, or, okay, there you go. Commissioner Hatfield?
I just got an email confirming that the steering committee will meet on June 28th. So,
June 28th,
What time, Dave?
10 o'clock, 10 to 11.
10 a.m. Okay. Anything else?
No.
Okay. Thank you again, Pam and Barb. Very well done presentations, very thoughtful. I'm sure that took you guys some time to put those together, so we appreciate the insight there. Certainly have raised a lot of questions, and we will continue to keep tabs on that, especially, I think cameras are important. The other thing, and I forget if it came out of Ottawa or Allegan County, where they were talking about putting trackers in the information that's coming from the clerk to the clerk's office uptown. We should look at that or talk about that at some point too, just to see if there's something we can do to make that process more efficient, more transparent for our voters. So, and a shout out to Bruce Campbell. Commissioner Campbell, I saw him Saturday at Berry Township. They did a phenomenal job with the Bluegrass Festival, and Bruce, being the head of the VFW post there, did a great job organizing, helping, running, feeding, quenching the thirst of several attendees, and that was a great day for Southern Berry County. So appreciate all you do down there. You are a local legend, so we appreciate it. So, but anyways, I have nothing else. There are no further questions. We are adjourned. Thank you and have a great day.